Well, welcome to the book of Matthew. This is week 5. Man, we've covered some great territory.
We
talked
have.
right at the very beginning when Jesus kicks off the Revolution tour.
Yep, Sermon on the Mount.
Sermon on the Mount. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
what was next?
In the week 2, we talked about mission.
Mission. Week 3 was parables.
And week 4 was about the church and community.
Yeah, come on, and doing community really well. And today, when we look at the 5 blocks of Matthew, the 5th one is around Matthew chapter 24, 25, and the theme is the future. Man, this is good.
Yeah.
This is going to be really good.
So in the story of Matthew, you're heading towards Jesus' final week and
Right.
his death and resurrection.
Yep.
But in the midst of him facing that, he looks beyond that and gathers
Wow.
his disciples and starts
Right.
talking to them about their future and the world's future.
Right.
And so, it's an amazing couple of chapters where he talks about, some stuff that's going to happen within a generation. That specific temple is going to be destroyed.
Right.
It happened in AD 70. He
AD
predicted
70,
it.
yep.
It happened. But then he looks further out to stuff that's going to happen right through history. And there's kind of negative stuff which you just have to watch the news to see. There's going to be wars. There's going to be
Right.
famines, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But there's also positive things. Verse 14, the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations.
Wow.
And the final thing, that at the end, Jesus is coming back in victory.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's this kind of mixed
Yeah.
picture of where the whole thing's going. But interestingly, he, less than halfway through, so before the end of chapter 24, he actually shifts out of, these are what's happening, and he goes into how should you live in light of this?
Wow.
Right, so it's a bit like you can get the news feed and you can look at the news and
Yeah,
all the events that are happening in the world and what's going on and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done this. You look at the news feed on your phone and you can get a bit overwhelmed and it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's a disaster and that's horrible and that's tragic and if you just stay in that space just there,
Yeah.
you feel really oppressed, don't you? And overwhelmed and is there hope? But then this is what's really cool. Jesus says, well, yeah, there might be where things are going on and that, but there's this incredible hope that's coming.
Yeah. And
Jesus is coming back.
he tells a whole set of some more parables about, hey, this is how I want you to live.
Right.
And the really interesting thing about these 3 or 4 parables is, a lot of people are like, oh, Jesus is coming back. Are you ready if he comes back tonight?
Right.
Just a kind of okay question, but actually all these parables are like, actually that's a no-brainer. The issue is, what about if he's away for a long time?
Right.
Can you live out this kingdom revolution for a long time?
Wow.
So, the parable of the servant, Matthew 24, verse 48. My master is staying away a long time.
Right.
That's when he begins to stuff up.
Yeah.
The parable of the 10 virgins. The groom's away a long time. That's when they run out of oil.
Right.
And even the parable of the talents, Matthew 25, verse 19. The master's away a long time. And so it's this funny thing, this stuff is happening, but come on, I'm challenging you to live out a lifetime of radical discipleship.
Right, so it's not just a one-off, and I just go hard and then I crash and burn, but it's actually how do we get longevity going?
Yeah.
I remember growing up in the church and always terrified that Jesus could come back in the middle of the night, and was I ready? And I confess my sins every night in the bed, and that's a good thing to do, but also that, what if Jesus did come? Am I really, 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 really ready? And actually, as we learn from this passage, it's really about these principles of living well, living wise,
Yeah.
and living responsible, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's-
doing that consistently.
Yes.
Because we see in the parables, 5 of the virgins kind of wake up and they're like, oh no, now is the time we should be ready.
Right.
And they came to that realization, but they missed the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the wise ones
Yeah.
get the resources to go, we want to be ready if this takes longer than we
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's thinking generational, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's thinking beyond my lifetime,
Yeah.
my legacy, what will I leave? And we know Jesus will return.
Yeah, yeah.
He promises to come back.
There's a saying that might not be true, but that Martin Luther, who's a reformer, said, someone asked him, if you knew Jesus was coming back tomorrow, what would you do? And he said, I'd plant a tree. But you think about it, he's saying, I want to be found stewarding for the long haul,
Wow.
even if he came back tonight.
Wow.
And that's the question here. What does following Jesus look like long term?
Long
Being
term.
ready for
Right.
the long
Wow.
term.
Wow, so you've just talked about, in despite of all these events that are happening in the world, we just talked about that you need to live well. You
Yeah.
need to live really well. And it's the wise and the foolish living. that comes out
Yeah.
in the scripture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you made a good point earlier when we scrolled through our newsfeed, and we talked about it in the first session. Like, blessed are those who mourn.
Right.
Like, it is a good thing, you know, to be affected or to be broken when we see the brokenness. But in response, like, you know, we don't go in a big panic, but we go in for the long haul.
Right.
We plant ourselves in a church. We give, we are aware of those who might wander off. We love, and we love others
Right.
well, and we steward what we've been given really well.
So it's kind of a provoking question. Anyone can be ready for tomorrow, but can you stay ready for a long time?
Right.
It's provoking. Right?
Yeah,
That's what
and
Jesus
so
came to
those are the parables that are talking about that. What do you do about that? You know, like the servant, how do I sustain serving long term?
Right.
And then how the oil thing, what kind of resources do I know to put into my life so I
Yeah.
can sustain this for a long
Yeah.
time?
And we've talked about in other weeks, even like you take that living well and sustaining well around community.
Yeah.
If we don't work through conflict, we're not going to sustain this for a long haul, are we? We'll drift and we'll wander away.
Yeah.
And so that's what's the beauty of Matthew is you keep it in the scope of the whole book and the contents. That Jesus is constantly weaving these threads
Yeah.
in and out of his teaching.
And in some ways, it finishes in kind of almost surprisingly kind of mundane way. Like, you've got some talents in your life,
Right.
just develop them.
Yeah. And that's what you're talking about, being responsible.
Yep. Yep.
It's, you know, it's not necessarily about having everything in order, but really being responsible. Like,
Right.
this is what I've been given, and how can I grow this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I always like this thought that it's not about being perfect, but it's about progress.
Yeah.
We are to be transformed from glory to glory. We are to be journeying forward, but it's not about being perfect, but it's about making progress. And you think about those talents, and if you unpack this, and you can talk about this in your e-groups. Jesus talks about how one servant had 5 bags of silver, another one had 2 bags of silver, and the last one had 1 bag. And so with that, it's like, what are you doing with your talents?
And
how
the
are you
great
growing
thing
that?
is, it's like, don't get into comparison. It's not,
Right.
am I good as them or not? It's like, what did you do with what you got given? I'm
Yeah.
responsible
Right.
just to work with what I got given
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to grow it to become all that it could be.
So good.
It's incredible. And I love the other theme that comes through that whole text there. Jesus actually says responsibility is a reward. And that is like, oh, you know, sometimes we shy away and someone wants to give us some more responsibility. And would you step up and could you serve
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
And could you take a lead here? Or you've got some gifts and talents, can you use it for the kingdom? And sometimes we go, I don't know if I want that responsibility. But Jesus says responsibility is actually a reward. To the one who got 5, he got rewarded with another 5.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the one with 2 got rewarded with 2 more, but the one with 1 wasn't living out this principle of longevity, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
He was thinking, I think he says this thought that, wow, I didn't know when you were going to come back. Maybe you could have come back tomorrow. And so all I did was I hid my talent.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm not going to be spectacular. I'm not going to see spectacular growth. It's like, yeah, but if you put that to work,
Yeah,
just over time, it could be something significant.
Yeah.
and it will grow.
Yeah.
It will grow.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think be encouraged, you know, when you read these chapters, you know, we want you to live well, live wise, and live responsible. You know, just in your e-groups as you conclude tonight's session, why don't you talk about what talent has God given you? And then a great question is, what are you doing with your talent? Are you actually doing anything with it? Don't bury it. It doesn't end well for the person who buries their talent. So why don't you put your talent to work? And we trust you've been blessed by this
Yeah.
series and had a great
Cool.
time. And we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.